Now, the stated Israeli aim in all this remains to free Israelis from the terror of Hamas rocket attacks. But over the last year, those rockets haven't been fired at a consistent rate, and so it's a matter for debate as to what's the best way to prevent them. A short time ago, I spoke to the former Israeli Foreign Minister Silvan Shalom, a member of Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party. I began by asking him whether he thought we were reaching the end game in this conflict.
What we are trying to do right now is to put an end to the threat that they posing toward Israel for the last 8 years. 1 million Israelis live under fire, live in bomb shelters. It can't go on. Just try to imagine that here in London, not for 8 years, not for 8 months, not even for 8 weeks, just 8 days that London was under fire. Wouldn't you ask your government to try to put an end to that phenomena? I'm sure you would ask them to do so. That's what the Israeli people is asking their government.
Well, Mr. Shalom, I'd like to take you back to the start of this conflict, if I may, because I know you won't want to mislead our viewers about what caused it. But isn't it the fact that during the ceasefire, not a single Israeli was killed? And the reason for that was because Hamas fired not a single rocket. And so the situation now is that Israeli citizens are actually far less safe.
No, I think you're wrong, unfortunately, because during that ceasefire of 6 months, they were firing rockets on a daily basis. But for them to fire only 5 rockets a day, it's just like to keep the ceasefire.
But Mr. Shalom, let me just stop you for a minute there, because this is actually a document that's given to journalists by the Israeli government. And in this document it says, and I'm quoting, Hamas was careful to maintain the ceasefire. Rockets were fired, but they were from splinter terrorist organisations. Your government is saying that Hamas did maintain that ceasefire.
No, I think it's not correct.
But this is your government's document.
No, but they don't say that Hamas was not firing. They were firing rockets, and they're always trying to target civilians. Their main goal is to try to kill children and women.
Mr. Shalom, I'm going to have to stop you, because this document is published by the Intelligence and Terrorism Information Centre at the Israel Intelligence Heritage and Commemoration Centre, and they say that Hamas maintained the ceasefire.
It's not a government, it's a private institution.
It's given to foreign journalists by the government as a statement of fact.
Listen,
now the facts
you would like to hear the facts, or you would like to invent some facts?
I would like you to tell me the facts,
so the facts are that during that ceasefire, they were using it for not only firing rockets toward Israel, but to acquire and to get more missiles with much longer range that put 1 million Israelis under fire, because those missiles have longer range of 40 kilometers, 25 miles. My mother lives there. I know if they were firing or not. To stop it, it means to deter, to bring once again the Hamas to rethink 10 times before they will launch one more rockets toward Israel. You know, after the war in Lebanon, that in the eyes of many Israelis was a big failure, it was one achievement that we had. That after the war, Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, said, if I would have known that the Jews would become so crazy, I wouldn't open the war against them. And since then, he didn't even fire 1 rocket or missiles toward Israel. That's what we'd like to achieve with the Hamas.
Well, the spokesman for the Israeli Prime Minister, Mark Regev, has confirmed for us that in the view of the Israeli government, our statistics regarding rockets are correct. In the ceasefire last year, between June and November, only 20 rockets were fired from Gaza, and these were fired by organisations other than Hamas. However, Mr. Regev added that in the government's view, Hamas, as the power in Gaza, bore responsibility for those attacks.
There was a time when Israelis were safe from Hamas rockets during the recent ceasefire. In May, there were 149 rocket attacks. In June, before the ceasefire started on the 18th, there were 84. In the rest of June, just 3. Throughout July, August, September and October, there were only 15 attacks, and Israel agrees that none of these rockets were fired by Hamas. On November the 4th, Israel launched an attack that killed 6 Hamas fighters just inside the Gaza Strip. They say the militants were building a tunnel to try and kidnap an Israeli soldier. The result was a fresh barrage of rockets from Hamas. After November the 4th, there were 68 and 52 in December. During the entire period of the ceasefire, no Israelis were killed by Hamas rockets.
Our goals are minimalistic and defensive. Success is freeing the civilian population of southern Israel from the fear of an incoming Hamas rocket.
But if that was the case, there were no Hamas rockets during the ceasefire. Before November the 4th, there were no Hamas rockets for 4 months.
And that's correct. And this crisis started when Hamas, throughout the ceasefire,
Surely this crisis started when Israel broke the ceasefire on the 4th of November.
I disagree strongly, sir. Israel acted on the 4th of November defensively because there was a tunnel that was being dug, designed...
But there were no Israeli civilians being killed at that time.